over there partying. I already know about y'all. What's up, brother? Look at you. Oh, man. Look at y'all.
What we got cooking?
Check it out. I got some tomato bruschetta for you guys. Nice and simple, but
good.
delicious. Very refreshing. That'll work well with your wine.
Looks like there's a balsamic reduction on it.
A little balsamic sauce.
Okay. I went to culinary. Yes, I did.
You act like you know what you're talking about.
I do.
Look at the colors.
Who's coming to visit?
Oh, today we got Amy Stretten.
Okay.
Yes, Amy is a Black indigenous journalist and style blogger.
Okay.
She, I think, is the ultimate in the social hyphen. We're going to get into that.
She's a blogger. Don't let her in your business.
I'm so excited to get a chance to talk fashion and beauty.
And like pop culture, does she
Absolutely.
do that? Yeah. You know what's crazy with pop culture is like back in the day, pop culture used to be like celebrities and all, and you find that on the news. But now it seems like the news of the day is the pop culture. It's like reverse. It's crazy. Like, it's new. But here's our pop culture for today. Y'all get into them plates. I'm gonna get started on dinner, and I'll see y'all in the morning.
Awesome.
Enjoy.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
Yummy.
Hope my sleeve don't fall in the food.
You look too good.
Look, the sleeve.
So what did you think about what Sean was saying about how there's been the split where celebrity drove pop culture, or you found it on the news, and now it's the other way around?
It reminds me of what Cheryl said a little bit ago about George Floyd, being, unfortunately for the wrong reasons, but is kind of an icon around the world.
What do you attribute that to? You know what I'm thinking?
The rise of news entertainment?
Yeah, and technology. I mean,
True.
think
Yeah.
about it. It used
So
to be
true.
a time that what was blasted out was very controlled, right, by 3 networks in the beginning.
Yes.
So a very small number of people controlled what we got to see. And now with cell phones in everyone's hands and the internet, you can basically, everyone can put out messages,
The
right?
revolution is being televised.
Yeah. And then what drives it
Yeah,
is
really.
eyes, right, ratings.
True.
So if you're getting likes or retweets or any of those things, you become popular, and then that becomes the news story. So it's just, yeah?
And that'll be fun to talk about with our guest because she's a blogger.
And a journalist.
You know,
And there's
so-
sometimes that conflict between
Right.
journalists considering themselves to be legitimate
Right.
and
versus
bloggers. You
Aren't
know,
they the same?
No, they're different, but I think she'll be able to tell us more about that, particularly being a journalist.
Yes.
But I think there's a lot of that today, too. It's like there all these old paradigms that are falling, where it used to be that you had to go a particular path to become a particular thing, and it was
Yes.
credible because of
Yes.
that path. And now people are
Good
doing
point.
different things, and then the ones that went the path, though, often are frustrated with the ones that seem to have just popped onto the scene, and popularity is driving them.
And the reason, because that happened in the beauty industry where, you have these people who have been,
Hair for years.
doing hair for years and icons on stage and platforms at hair shows. And then the person who, now is on the internet making the wig and putting it on themselves and then turning around and doing a few twirls to some dance routine. And then now
Numbers.
they're more popular because they just became more interested and they have more numbers. So
Yeah.
it's interesting between, definitely the journalist versus blogger discussion is going to be cool because it's just even how they're compensated, because when you're blogging, a lot of it is trying to get, as long as your numbers and your reach is there, then you've got people who will send you things and they want you to promote it, whether you really use it or not, as opposed to, which is very similar because, magazines and other
Sponsors, same
have
idea,
same idea, same concept, but now it's for that particular individual. So
Instead of the ones who pay those dues. Huh?
yeah.
Do you ever feel like that? Any of you feel like there's something that you really put a lot of work into and paid your dues, and then suddenly someone comes along that maybe did not and
absolutely
gets
do.
access to things that you were promised, so to speak, when you pay your dues? Work hard, do these things, and this is what's at the end of the rainbow?
Absolutely, but
We
for
can
sure.
relate to how that would feel. You
Yeah.
better believe it.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it when reality TV exploded, and as an actor, a lot of actors were very frustrated, and they would criticize these reality stars. They're not even,
Good
thinking they're taking jobs away, but they're not taking jobs.
How do you feel about that? Like,
I never thought that they were taking jobs because if people want to watch that, that is the job.
Do you think it's as legitimate? Do you feel like, well, this
Absolutely.
is a legitimate type of programming?
Absolutely. I
and that?
never ever criticized reality TV. I've always watched it, and yeah, I never got on that anti-reality TV because I'm an actor and they're taking. I never.
One of the things I always think about, and I always use the example of Susan Lucci, who
Yes.
played Erica Kane for years,
That's right.
decades, on All My Children.
Children.
And so, and everyone knows that Susan Lucci is not Erica Kane.
Right.
So that, and we know how dramatic and great, she had about, 10 husbands.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, it's, she started off as a model, now she's a mogul. Now with reality TV, it would be Susan Lucci. So that there's not a character, so that then whenever she's out in the store and grocery shopping, no one's able to disassociate the person that you play on TV from the person who you really are. So that
Good
even
point.
if you actually have to create a personality or a persona for reality TV, that they're still saying, "Hey, Aaron." So it's not Joe, it's not some other name. It's they know you, or they think they know you because it's your name, and then they think that persona that they see on the reality TV is who you are. That's my only criticism of it, or the only drawback for me, is that when you do reality TV now, you're not actually acting and creating a character, you're acting as yourself.
And so you're talking about the actors and actresses that studied the game.
Why study the game? Why go through
Nowadays.
all of that? If,
Right.
Like, what's the point?
Oh, yeah. That's
If it's your passion, I believe that is kind of one of the most important things a person can do is pursue their passion, because it's not the outcome that you're doing it for. It's the process.
I think it waters down the quality of the art myself.
Okay.
I think that people who, and this has nothing to do with
Studying,
passion.
it's like traditional study
I
waters
think
down.
no, not the traditional studying. I think the lack of it.
Okay.
I think it becomes a lot of copycat. I think
Okay.
it becomes a lot of plug and play. I think when you start to put someone who has honed the craft and you stack that up next to something pop, not that the pop has no value, but you see something different. It speaks to me differently.
I guess to that point, it's like when you talked about that one time with RuPaul's Drag Race, even where people start to, once you see things happening successfully on some of these reality shows, the people who are then auditioning and trying to be a part of them,
Believe the hype.
they don't start studying. They start mimicking. They start figuring out, okay, I know they're going to ask me to do this. How can I come up with a better trick? How can I out-trick them? How can I be ready with my one-liner? What's going to be my new hashtag when I get on the show? So that they prepare. So is that real preparedness, or is that just?
I don't even call that art. I have a definition of art. Well, I say the goal of art is one thing. Show me something I've never seen before. The goal of entertainment is one thing. Inspire me. And so copying is kind of neither. So that's all it is you're copying someone.
Well, most things are being repeated. No one's. A lot
My
of things are-
grandmother was always say, ain't nothing new under the sun.
Right.
Oh, we used to call that the...
There's
Well, we
spins.
used to-
You can
just a
always put a
little
unique
tweak.
spin on
Well,
it. Just tweak
absolutely.
something with
Yeah.
recipes.
That's what
Sean
makes
could,
a difference.
could verify
Yeah.
that. I went to culinary school. I really did. And one thing I learned there was take a recipe. If you change one ingredient, it's not your recipe.
Put your spin on it. So we know the power of social media is definitely there. I mean, we look at movements that are being ignited,
Yeah, like current
issues that are being pushed. Trans lives matter, Black lives matter,
Who
all
would
these
have ever
different
thought
things
that would be trending?
that could catch on so quickly, like wildfire, right? So, what's your thoughts about how social media is able to be utilized as a tool to get messages out and quickly?
Well, for me, I think it's how it's reaching a lot of people fast. Because think about how many of us wake up in the morning, and what's the first thing you grab?
I almost hate to admit it.
Your
That
phone.
cell phone.
And so, and you're not going to the news on your cell phone. You're going to your
Email.
Instagram, your email, your Facebook. And as soon as you see what's happening there first, that becomes kind of your motivation for the day. So that then as you're now getting ready and then finally shake off, your sleep wash your face, and then turn the news on if you even watch the news, because a lot of young people are actually
Straight
could
on
care
their
less,
phone.
and some
Don't
older
watch it.
people don't even watch it. And especially after this pandemic, I mean, some people have just tapped out. I know there was a time when I had to tap out. It was just too much.
Yeah.
And so that the social media piece becomes a way when people become informed, and some people become reactionary around what they see on social media. So without even doing the research or
Yeah.
verifying sources.
I was gonna say, yeah, that it can also take on a real negative tone.
Exactly.
Because as much as you can push a positive message very quickly,
Yes.
you can push a false one. You can push
Absolutely.
a negative one.
I think that's something we're on the precipice of maybe a total shift in our society with COVID. I think, you mentioned social media as a tool. I think we are shifting into it being more than a tool. It is the new normal. Our lives will be online lives. Once COVID hit and lockdown happened,
Yeah.
I did not stop 1 second to sit and do anything. I shifted my efforts from real life to online immediately. And
What was your online presence like prior to then?
I mean, I had it private actually. It was just for connecting with friends. But when everything shut down, I started doing conversations and karaoke online.
Touching time.
And that was my art,
And what was the motivation for that?
because everything was shut down. I couldn't. I do karaoke. That's for me. It's performance. It's therapy. It's a lot. And when all the bars are closed, it's not available anymore. So I turned on Instagram Live and Facebook Live.
So social media put the power in your hands.
Yeah, social media became my nightclub, my performance space, my hangout spot, and I got used to it, and I didn't have a problem with it. I met all these people from around the world.
I go back to Black Lives Matter.
I'm so glad you went back there, Cheryl, because I wanted to ask, do you guys think that Black women get the same attention or significance as Black men in social media in terms of their relevance to the Black Lives Matter movement? Because we've had several cases where there have been women who have been killed and gone through very abusive situations, and some of them haven't even made headlines in the same way that it's happened with Black men. Do you think that there is any kind of disparity or not unfair presentation even in social media with Black women? A lot of criticism, and the reason why I bring this up is because we talk about trans women. I know that is a topic that is very close to your heart.
Sensitive.
And I know that they are often, highly abused and highly, affected by a lot of violence.
So true. Yeah.
But the thing is, I feel like I don't want to go from a Black Lives Matter to Trans Lives Matter. When I feel like even when we talk about the Black Lives Matter movement, I feel like Black women don't necessarily get the same footing.
Well, Black Lives Matter is about all Black lives. I think that you always have to have that thing that's the
Does it
lightning
feel
rod.
like that though? Do you, if
To
you
me,
ask
it-
Black women, do you think Black women, Cheryl, let me ask you, do you think that when people speak specifically about the Black Lives Matter movement, that as a woman that you resonate with that? Because so much of it has rested on the deaths of Black men.
And I'm glad you said that, because that's all that I can think about. That whatever we're feeling right now as Black women, that we got to go out front, take the heat. We're not getting as much like Breonna Taylor and all the others. It's true, because we see so many of our Black kings getting killed on camera.
And we don't see those same rallies for a Breonna Taylor.
Yes, that's so true.
We don't see that.
That's so true.
It's a subset. So for me, I'm a little uncomfortable jumping from the Black Lives Matter movement to the Trans Lives Matter movement when I feel like our Black women in general, trans or not, don't get.
So we're doing a hierarchy of who
Yes.
should be supported. Like,
No, I'm saying that-
But let me think about it. We're saying Black Lives Matter, right? And I
Right.
guess that obviously means different things to different people. Like for me, it means all Black people,
Me
Right.
too.
not just Black men. I think that's just the lightning rod that gives us the opportunity to have the platform
Right.
that is inclusive. And I think, at least my understanding was Black Trans Lives Matter because, okay, Black people, that was sort of Black people talking to Black people.
Amen.
Okay, you say Black Lives Matter, but at the same time, we're being murdered. and not necessarily by the police. So our lives matter too.
Okay.
So
I accept that.
at least my experience
that's fair.
of that.
That's why I had
very
to
fair,
break up in
because
subcategories.
that was my reticence around it, is that when we start creating another, if again, I struggle with all the separations, all the breakdowns,
Back
all
down to
the
where
minim,
you're at.
like all of this. Can we keep something,
Together.
just one whole piece that we say we love this one whole piece? Black Lives Matter.
Okay.
You know, like,
Feel
and
your
then
passion.
whoever is black, whatever they are, they matter.
That's
Yeah.
ooh, you're right. I feel your passion on that.
You know, I struggle with all the breakdowns and separations, and I just really wish
I get your frustration with that,
that we
Chris. I
could
really do.
rally
So
behind one.
when we come back from the break,
Okay.
let's pick that up, because I can understand how frustrating that is.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Chris, I understand your frustration when you talk about how, we dice up the community in a way and sort of dilute our power as it relates to like Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
So do you kind of see how the Black Lives Matter is global and we're talking about all of us?
Yeah, I do. I just really just was nervous about when the transgender movement was coming into play as a force, that it was now another way to kind of dissect and, make it into something else, when I just wish it could just be this one big Black Lives Matter movement, and that the transgender community was a part of that too. So
I agree with that. But I also think that I don't see the Black Lives Matter movement as a black people thing. In my mind, I call it the justice movement. And I think that it should affect every single human being to get it in their heart that I need to start doing the right thing. And we have to figure out, what the right thing is.
That's a great transition, Aaron. That's going because our guest, Amy, and I believe Amy's here.
Okay.
She is across the spectrum and represents so many different groups in this kind of holistic thing that you're talking about.
Okay. Yes.
Amy,
excited.
yes. Oh! Well, look at this fast. Look at you, madam. Loving it. Give a little spin. Give a little spin. All right.
Gotta keep it cute.
Take a little mask there. Keeping it cute. That's an understatement. You look lovely.
Goodness. Don't forget.
So good to see you. There you go. Have a seat,
Look at
darling.
you all finding new ways to embrace each other in the new climate.
you
gotta do
We
it.
gotta figure it out.
Before we jump
that
into
one
that, Sean has got
yes.
some goodies
Oh, wow.
here. Make yourself
Okay, hope
comfortable.
you came hungry.
Yes.
Wow.
In honor of our Chicago native, I made a deep dish pizza because sometimes you just gotta go deep.
Thank you, Sean.
So, Amy, just before you arrived, we were talking about Black Lives Matter, and we were talking about Trans Lives Matter, and we were having this discussion about how all the subgroups are stepping forward, and Chris was concerned that we were splintering things to the point that we were diluting, like, who are we really talking about? Where are Black women in this equation? And I know that you, as a Black Indigenous woman, you represent a lot of different groups, and I thought this is the perfect topic for Amy.
Can we clarify something? Because I just recently started seeing the term indigenous. And I think there are a lot of people watching who they may be hearing it for the first time. Can you?
So there is a lot of conversation around that. Some people do not want to be called Native American. They don't want to be called Indian. Obviously not Redskin either.
Why not Native Americans? I was taught that Native American is the PC
Well, the
term.
fact is that the borders were placed on indigenous land. So we are not, it's like in Canada, they'll say First Nation. They have different groups within Aboriginal. So indigenous just means everybody who's indigenous to the land where they come from.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just a unifying term, in other words.
So because you do represent a lot of different groups, and so we're thinking about this idea of who is included, who's not included, and how do you leverage, you also being a journalist, you know how important
Right.
messages are.
Yeah.
So when you think of Black Lives Matter, what do you think of?
Well, I mean, the point about unity is so important. I do feel that we should say Black trans lives matter, just as we say Black lives matter, because we're not saying all lives matter, because we're specifically saying Black lives, because Black people are often not thought of when it comes to so many things. They're, often at the bottom, unfortunately. So Black trans lives are lower than
down at
that.
the bottom.
So that's why we have to keep centering the folks that are most in danger, essentially.
And
Now, that's a
danger.
good perspective.
That
That
is
is
a
a
great word.
Yeah.
So then I think when you bring it to the danger factor, this kind of goes to what Chris was saying, is while we see black men being harmed for a show on television, if you will, almost to a sport, the same thing where black women have been killed in front of cameras and not getting elevated to that same kind of national attention.
Totally.
And then I think you were suggesting that sort of jumping to black trans lives. What
Yes.
about black female lives?
Language means so much. So saying black trans lives matter, black women matter, all of that is so, so important.
So how do you identify?
Yeah, so I mean, I am Native American or Indigenous, black, and white. My dad is actually French Canadian and Scots Irish. And I speak fluent Spanish. That's very much a part of my identity. I'm queer, I'm femme.
Femme
I'm a lot.
meaning?
So it's a good question. A lot of people don't really understand what femme is.
I don't.
For
And I'm
me,
gay.
my femme is feminine. For some femmes, they're feminine in other ways, or it's just a very kind of fluid thing, like all identities are. But for me, I operate from a place of love, and I feel like that's a part of my femme. It's the divine feminine. It's a lot of those kinds of themes that stem from the concept of womanhood for me.
You look simply delicious.
There's something so important that people don't often focus on, which is the beauty, the magnificence of femininity. You know, for men, it's always it's attacked. You know, and obviously rooted in misogyny, but they're missing out on half of the world. You know, in terms of half of life, 50% of life is.
What do you mean? What do you mean by attacked exactly?
Femininity is a bad thing for a male.
I think that really resonates with you.
Femininity,
personally. Yeah.
yes, it does resonate because I've always embraced my femininity and I've always been attacked for it. And it's like, yeah.
I'm so sorry. I was just going to say that I feel like when I want to present myself and my gender in the way that I feel most comfortable, it's often like seen as trivial or, you know, lesser than. But if someone is more masculine of center and they want to present as masculine, we all celebrate it. You know, I don't understand, like there's sexism within the LGBTQ community.
Absolutely.
There's racism, there's transphobia, there's fat phobia. Let's just talk about that. That is a whole other
My
thing.
stomach, let me grab the roll of fat right here and own it.
Own it.
Yes.
I wish it could go away, but I never hear the voices say you work out every day. I only hear the voices say you got fat around your stomach. So let's
Well, my
grab it,
whole
girl.
self-love journey
Grab it.
really began when I embraced everything that I am. And that's not just my size, my body, my fat rolls, my cellulite. That's my gender expression, my sexual orientation. And I just really started loving myself as I am. And I honestly feel like I have so much more confidence now, 50 pounds heavier, than when I began.
Repeat that. Repeat that for the people
I
in
have
the
more
back.
confidence now, 50 pounds heavier, than when I was smaller.
That's a very powerful statement.
It is
You know
so
what?
powerful. You said it earlier, and the way you said it was slightly different. You said, I didn't truly love myself until I gained 50 pounds.
Yeah.
So many people
Facts.
gain weight, and then it's like it lowers their self-esteem.
Speaking of that, what motivated you to this level of confidence in the skin that you're in and being able to embrace each little nugget just enough to be able to use it as part of how you create your own brand? Because I think so many of the young people in our culture, they struggle with, how do I embrace my difference? How do I embrace my uniqueness and not feel like in some way it separates me, but it actually empowers me as a version of this whole?
So the truth is that I'm a unicorn. I can't help but be different, you know, and I don't say that from ego. I say that from a humble place. And actually it's sometimes frustrating because I'll go into my own community and I feel like a visitor because I'm not seen as enough of that one thing. You know, I feel like
You're too white. You're too
being
this.
mixed race and having all these different identities is a struggle, you know? And the fact of the matter is white supremacy is the reason why we have things like blood quantum and colorism.
What is blood quantum?
Explain that.
So blood quantum is a thing that affects indigenous folks. The US government will say that to be a member of a certain tribe, you have to be this percentage of that nation. The interesting thing about being Native American specifically is that our government, or it's like my identity is not just ethnically Chickahominy, but we're also a federally recognized nation, which means that I'm a member of a sovereign nation, so it's like another country essentially. So individual countries or sovereign nations are allowed to determine what a citizen is, you know? So are you 50%? Are you 25%? Like, what is the cutoff point? That's blood quantum. But back in the day, we didn't have that. Now people are like just clawing at resources and they don't want to let other folks in, so they deny other people of their ethnicity. My tribe is a triracial tribe. It's from Virginia. So a lot of the tribes.
What part of Virginia?
It's like Charles City County. No one ever knows it. It's very small. It's like 40 minutes outside of Richmond.
Okay.
But so my tribe has Black members in the tribe, and like a lot of southeastern tribes, we fought for a very long time to become federally recognized, to be considered a sovereign nation.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking that, we often talk about how Black history, I'm not talking about February, I'm talking about Black history and Blacks' contributions to society aren't taught, if you don't know. And I'm just so intrigued by a lot of what you're saying about indigenous history as well. And I think that could be a pathway like Black history, and then you representing both is very exciting to hear your perspective and have all this rich sort of understanding about how it all relates to each other, which is, you think that's what we're starting to experience now?
I hope so.
You young generation.
I really hope so. I mean, I think the Gen Zers are really pushing the envelope and really getting us to Black liberation. So, more power to them, and I want to support them like little babies, and keep them like fighting.
I love it.
And, another thing too, because I know that sometimes different communities are upset by Black folks being the focus. But the truth is that once Black folks are liberated, we will see change in other communities. And right now what we're seeing with the mascot issue is that that's now in the forefront. And that's because of the Black liberation movement.
I want to pick up more on that because I think this is really good. We're going to take a little break and then we come back. Hold that thought. Chris brought up a really good question when he was asking you, you clearly have embraced yourself and trumpet self-love. How do you translate that in a way that others who are struggling with those things can do that as well? What were some of the things that inspired you and how you can help them get there?
Well, personally, I just show by doing. I'm real me all the time, gray hairs out, no bra, like just, being who I am.
Hold on. I gotta get you what?
Cheryl.
I gotta get you a piece of
Some
tape.
water for Cheryl. Sean.
I need to get you some tape. Girl, ain't nobody bothered that cleavage happening.
Oh my God.
Go on, girl.
Stop with your mouth full.
Leave Cheryl alone. Go on, Amy.
Mama told me not to
What
do
I'm
that.
trying to say is that, I accept myself, my flaws and all, and I do that publicly. So I hope that other women, men, non-binary folks will see their quote unquote imperfections that diet culture wants you to believe are imperfections and start loving them, because that's what makes you unique,
Well, let me say this. I speak on the fat on my tummy, and then the voices are talking, then they get quieter. I go into my breath, long, slow, and deep, practicing my yoga so I can control the voices. Oops, wait a minute. Thoughts when you want to stay out the nut house. Voices when you want to go in. But I hear voices. So by me speaking on it, it takes the power from the insecurity. Suddenly it's like, well, I don't have stomach cancer. Then the fat is in its bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's, because I can't say I love it, but acceptance gives you peace.
Yeah, acceptance and, as you said, gratitude. If you're not grateful, you are blocking your blessings, because you get more blessings the more grateful you are.
That's what COVID has done for everybody.
Totally.
Ooh, baby.
And what you just said, I used to live with Cheryl, so a lot of her.
Poor thing.
I know, right?
Look up for it.
A lot of her Cherylisms I have incorporated, and one of them was that whenever you're insecure about anything, if you vocalize it, you've taken the power away from it.
Right. Totally.
Yeah,
Any
it
nervousness,
works.
anything.
Nervousness, anything, it
anything.
works.
That's why I identify as a queer fat femme, because as soon as I say I'm fat,
Bam.
I mean, honestly, what's annoying is I say I'm fat and people say, oh, no, you're not, you're beautiful. And I'm like, I didn't say I wasn't beautiful. I just said I'm fat. Like, have you seen me?
I personally think, I'm gonna tell you something. The way you put yourself together, the whole, because
Thank
fashion, style is everything. It dictates, without one word spoken.
Is fat the actual adjective?
It depends on who you are. For me, it is. For some women, they just want to be plus size, curvy. Some people are still offended by the word fat. It's just a descriptor. It doesn't mean, anything other
power
than that.
away
It's
from
just, Are you larger? Are you smaller? Like, yes. So I just think for women and femmes, it's like, don't take up too much space, but I'm gonna take up all the room I need and maybe then some, like the men on the subway, you know?
Come on.
With the legs spread, like, I'm just gonna take my space.
I'm
So-
glad
Well,
you said that.
I mean, and to be honest with you, there are some people who would not actually consider you fat. So when you actually
Totally.
claim that, it's interesting that you actually choose fat as one of your.
People don't want to consider me native. They don't want to consider me black. They don't want to consider me queer.
What is-
But I know what I am.
For you.
Yes, for me.
Period, right?
Yeah, my identity is my identity.
Self-definition, it's yours to
Exactly.
define.
Same thing with being transgender non-conforming. Like, you pick, you know who you are and you choose who you are every day.
I believe you really are. I understand what you're saying because fat has such a negative connotation on it. But really, the way you put yourself together with your style and your energy, your confidence.
That's the word right there, confidence. Confidence is what beauty really is.
It is
Well, I mean,
so
because
true.
again,
You
you
know?
talked about gaining 50 pounds and feeling more confident. So that it was the idea that would you have considered yourself fat? Would that have been 50 pounds lighter? Would that have been one of your descriptors?
So I feel like anyone can define themselves as they wish, but if you are, let's say, a size 10 or 12, which is the borderline into plus size, not quite, it's like a bridge size is what they call it. If you are that size to someone who's a size 22, you're not fat. But if you are the only 10 amongst your friends who are size 2s, size 4s, you are the fat friend. And I've been that fat friend in the smaller, groups, and I've been the fat friend in groups where folks are larger than me. But it's more about me claiming that identity and not letting it have power over me in a way that makes me feel less than.
Right.
You know?
You speak Spanish. Have you heard the term bien gorda? Mm-hmm. Okay, is that, I've heard it's a Mexican phrase, based in Mexico, because each Spanish-speaking country, they have different terms, a different lingo, but that is Mexican, right?
I believe so.
Okay, yeah.
I know the term. I know that they say it in songs or they'll say it, just as a compliment, really.
Yes, it
Gorda
means
is what?
being well fat. Gorda is fat, bien is well. And it's a compliment. It means you are curvy, you're round, and that is what is considered sexy and desirable.
Like, que bien gorda. Like, it has like this, like, it's just it's a yummy word to me. A yummy expression.
Well, and that can't always be the case, because I know for gay men in particular, there's a lot of body shaming, and being gorda is not something I'm necessarily.
You're gonna hear,
You know what I'm saying? That's not usually. I mean, there are
bear community.
genres and communities.
I was gonna say,
and
I love my
subsets.
bears.
And
I do.
Lord
I
knows,
prefer
Bear?
but it's not
Are
real bears.
Who's closest in the bear community to describe it? Are you enough in it to,
Oh, I'm not a bear, no.
or do you know enough about it to explain it?
Oh, what a bear is?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a person who is of a certain weight class and usually hairy. Like very hairy if you're going to be a bear, or you might be a cub if you're a little lighter.
It's like hyper masculine.
Then
Yeah.
there's wolf
and
and
it's
pig
And they're
there's
Otter.
otters, yeah.
and a lot of those things are related to your physical aesthetic,
Correct.
so that your
Which is-
physical and
Go ahead, I'm
twink, yes.
Yeah, which is interesting that those groups group around. They are fetishes sometimes or subcultures within the gay community, and the images that are projected for gay men tend to be the fit, well worked out type image. And a lot of young gay men in particular talk about how difficult it is to live into those images. Like if we think about, even some of the if you're African American, being very muscular and fit, that's the ideal as opposed
body
to
girls.
someone who's not. Yeah.
I used to, when I was coming out, maybe around 21, I used to hang out in West Hollywood, and that's when I really developed body insecurity, because I was always thin, and the ideal is the muscular man, and I always was treated like I was invisible. So when I go to these clubs, and so I started, working out. I worked out 6 times a day, ate a bunch of meals, or was it 3? No, 3 workouts a day, 6 meals a day. Did that for a few months, and by the end of it, gained 1 pound.
Sure, metabolism.
My metabolism.
Wow.
So what that taught me was, okay, Aaron, you could either keep abusing your body, or you could make an adjustment up here to say, this is my body, and I'm okay with it.
People love confidence. Like, I don't care what size you are, how old you are, what you are. If you're confident and you love yourself, people want to be around that. They gravitate
And guess what? They
towards
crave it, and you don't have to, and they see it.
That's what
the
I
truth.
tell
But some
all
people
the
want
time.
community and acceptance, and so if you lack confidence, I mean, then you know, I
But
mean,
nobody can give that to you. That is, if there's anything I'd like people to understand, no one can give you that. That
well,
starts.
I mean, think about sororities and fraternities. I
They don't
mean, a
give
lot
you
of
no-
people
that's
join
all-
them because they want to be a part of something where they are part of a group, a collective.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so that's about support, maybe, if we're talking about being a part of something for support, but that doesn't take the place of confidence. And a lot of times people are. Like when you talked about going to the clubs in West Hollywood and that feeling, and I thought, oh, my heart breaks for him because I walked into those same clubs, and that's not my feeling at all because I feel very good in who I am, and that's what I bring in, and people are drawn to me because of that. Like I can stand next to the hot body boy and feel fabulous. Like they're gonna come to me too.
Because it's all in the mind.
It's
But what
an
if they don't
energy.
come to you?
But
Then
they do. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
okay,
But they do, and
if
they
they-
always
and if-
have.
and
And
if
it
they
ain't because
don't,
I
then
got.
what?
But if
a
they
worked
don't,
up-
then what?
they do.
I'm not talking about you. I'm saying for a
saying.
person who they don't have the person
like,
coming up to
I'm
them.
I'm saying-
Where do they get their confidence?
But I'm saying,
How do they get the
What I'm
confidence?
trying to suggest is this: it starts with you bringing it. We always are looking out for it. We're looking for somebody to give it to us. It's almost like validation. The problem with someone else validating you is they can take it from you as well. So when you decide for yourself, like that's all she's saying here today, is she's decided who she is and what her identity is and what she loves without regard to any of this other juxtapositions that say something else. I'm wondering if you have any
Powerful, sister.
thoughts about how, because I'll tell you what I struggle with. Our understanding of everything that has led to where we are, but our profound stuckness, at least it feels like stuckness to me, because I've heard these understandings for decades. So this isn't just about Black Lives Movement or the now. We understand the impact of what we've been through here in this country, and I'm just trying to figure out where do we go from here? Where are the next steps, and how do we move beyond just our awareness of what has happened to us, but what we really want to create for ourselves? Oh, Aaron, before we went to the break, hold that thought. Sean is coming with the delicious.
You know, I've already put my fingers in it.
Okay.
Oh, Sean.
We have a caramel flan with a bourbon-infused whipped topping. Enjoy.
Oh, very nice. Thank you, Sean.
Delicious.
So, Aaron, just before we went to break, you were about to say.
Yeah, I was just saying for people, like particularly young people, or maybe even not young people who are struggling with confidence, one thing that I have found is that success breeds confidence. So if you're struggling with your confidence, start with something you are naturally gifted at or better at than others, because everyone has an advantage at something. You know, we talk about white privilege, but I think every human being is born with their advantage,
special.
something special.
That
And if
is
you
so
find
true.
that and you start to do it, you'll build confidence, and then you'll get better at it, and then that confidence starts to pour into other areas of your life.
That's
For me, I was about faking it till I made it. Because I really didn't like myself, but I would take pictures of myself, I would share them on social media, I would get tons of likes, people would comment, I had new followers, new DMs, you know, like the response was so great and so supportive and encouraging. So that eventually made me think, wait, maybe my thighs don't look horrible. Maybe I can show off my knees. Maybe I can not wear a bra and just be comfortable as I am.
Did you get any hate?
That's what I was going to ask. Is there any
you know-
negative
Like,
feedback?
you know that shirt's you're too big for that short skirt, girl.
I've received some. I will say I'm lucky because I haven't received a ton of it. I feel like most of the people who follow me are not trolls, thankfully. But there's, if anything, I feel like, you know, BBW women often get fetishized. So they're, you know, told, oh, I love big girls, or oh, that is the worst compliment. Do not say that to someone. Like, oh, I like big girls, so I like you. I think you're beautiful. Like, duh, I'm beautiful. It doesn't have to be because I'm big, because, you know. So yeah,
Yeah, you've just taken you out of the equation when
But
you say,
now-
I love big girls.
If they start trolling you now, it won't make a difference. because you have built that now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, call me fat any day of the week.
Baby, do anything
Tell me I
you
have
wanna do or
on my,
say.
cellulite on my legs any day you want. And
Hey.
I'm like, and yeah, what? And I'll pull my skirt up higher. Like, I am so proud of this body. It got me where I am. I'm resilient as like,
I love it.
let's do this. You
It
know?
shuts it down.
Yes,
It shuts
it
it
does.
down. Confident, can nothing come up against
You
confidence.
can't tell me nothing.
See, can't nothing
Exactly.
come up against
I wish I had
that's
known when
the
I was
best
your
feel.
age. Okay.
Well, you know now.
Oh,
So,
baby.
That's what matters.
I think I got it on a whole other. It's a little too much at this point. I have to. You have to calm Auntie down sometimes.
So with all
Okay.
this
Live your best life.
self-love and feeling all voluptuously good about oneself, how does that translate into your dating life? And
Well, that's another story. Dating in Los Angeles is the worst. Total trash. Yeah. So the thing, back to like what you were saying before about feeling like you are this person who doesn't fit in with the rest of the folks, you know, in the queer community. That's what I experienced too. And also because of my confidence, people are intimidated. I get that all the time, and it's so annoying because I swear I'm the nicest person. But yeah, people say, oh, your education, oh, the way you speak, oh, the way you dress, you're too confident for me. You know, they want someone who I guess they could walk all over or something.
Yes.
That's not me. So, you know, I think that you just have to be you, love yourself in every environment, and if they want to date me, they want to date me. If they don't, they don't. But I'm not going to settle, because at the end of the day, I could be with someone who pretends they're interested in me, and if they're not interested in all of me, I don't want to be with them.
And when you say queer, you know, I come from the generation where it was just gay. So when you say queer, and Aaron says queer, tell me real quick, because you want to go to your top. What do you mean?
Well, for me, queer is a unifying term. So because I want to be open to dating folks who are gender nonconforming, folks who are transgender, I will say I'm queer, because I don't want to say I'm a lesbian, because if they're a woman, then, you know, they identify as a woman, then I would date you, but, you know, not someone who identifies as a man or masculine of center or doesn't identify with either gender. So for me personally, that's why I say queer, because lesbian just felt a little bit constricting. Yeah.
That's why I won't claim anything at this point. You know? I just literally refuse, and I'll tell people in a minute. Chris came up with something. We were talking the very first day. They were like, well, you used to be gay, you used to be straight, now you just want to go to sleep by 8. You know, I'm at that age. I hope you never get there.
Oh my God,
And then,
I'm there.
no, you're a little too young to be there. But Chris came up with a wonderful term. What did you say, Chris, I am?
Oh, I just said we can add another letter and just give her the W.
Which is,
Whatever.
I'm like, add that.
I'm with it.
I can accept that.
It works for her.
It fits because you know, bisexual. I would call her bisexual, and she would not allow it. No, I am not bisexual.
So what actually stimulates you? So when you actually what do you find attractive? So if someone was interested in you, like what actually piques your interest?
Okay, so I would say big energy, which is problematic. But I like a boss, someone who can handle me, because I'm a lot. I need somebody who's just like gonna bring it, that they're gonna be the one to take the initiative and invite me out, ask me out. You know, we'll open the door. I like a little chivalry. You know, I mean, that's important to me, and I don't care what form that comes in. As long as you bring that energy and those vibes, I'm about it. I'm so about it. But I really need someone who's spiritual. I need someone who thinks outside of the box, doesn't just see the confines that society puts on us, you know, but is open-minded. I don't know. That is hot to me.
I love how the way you talk. It reminds me of a straight person, because straight people can have a list of requirements that they want, and they can go out and look for them. But I grew up where you hook up with the nearest gay person, because that's you know, proximity, you know, and.
No, that's
And you know,
interesting.
and I never, ever, I don't think I've ever.
Where did you get that, darling?
in Aaron's life. That's how it's been.
That's my life. And
But now it could be
I
different.
heard that
I
part.
love
I
it.
asked you, where did you get that, darling? I'm trying to
Cleveland,
understand
Ohio.
how that became what your.
Is it based on
where'd
numbers?
you grow
Like
up?
that there's not enough?
Yeah, there's always a small number of out gay people everywhere.
Oh,
Always a small
okay.
number.
Cleveland.
And so, yeah, so then you look at whoever's gay and then you guys match up and then this is where, it was even in college it was like that. You know, you got your 10 gays, okay, it's your turn, okay, these two are together, and then now they break up and now it's these two. That's the way it was.
Supply and demand.
And I've never, yes, I've never been on a real date. And I always wish that the younger gays, you know, could know that that's possible. And now it is possible.
I think a lot of them do. I think that your experience is uniquely special.
Now with where society is, we're talking about you can get married. I mean, you can have whatever life you want. That doesn't make it free for everyone who's LGBT, of course, but certainly there's more options, and I think people do. My kids, you know, they're teenagers, and their friends are talking about going on dates. Like one of the things I never did with my kids is said, "Oh, is there a little?" I have 2 boys, so I never said, "Oh, is there a little girl at school you like?" I always kept it gender neutral. So that whoever they liked, and you know, like there was a trans girl that really liked my son, and you know, I was like, they're checking for you, you know.
I love that there was a trans girl.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I think that
Parents
they're
need to
come
hear
up in
that.
a very different society today.
And the youth, they don't see these separations. You know, they see a trans girl, it's a trans girl, it's a girl, and they are people. And I think that's what we all
Absolutely.
want. We want to be seen as people. I think the millennials.
Yeah, but
or
I
not
don't know
millennials,
that
Gen
they
Z.
don't see her
They
as
are-
a
they are
trans
there.
girl. I think they still see her.
They still
What'd
see
you
the
say, Chris?
categories. You're right, Chris. They still see the categories.
Right. I won't say that they're like all in some. Woo, we don't see
No, it's
anything.
no
land.
Nirvana.
They still see a trans girl, and they know if they choose the trans girl, they've got to accept whatever comes with choosing
Absolutely.
the trans girl.
That's true.
So that's it doesn't go away just because we become more accepting and we become more informed and more open.
But when you say accept the trans girl, do you mean accept the body parts? Are you is this what the discussion is, or is it just that they identify in that way, and so now you're dating a woman? Is that what you mean?
They're dating a trans girl, so whatever comes with that trans
discrimination.
girl's
From
life,
society. Yeah.
then they accept whatever comes with the trans girl's life. Just like I accept whatever comes with the fat girl's life. So that if I choose now the fat girl, and then now somebody over here who's ignorant now makes commentaries about the fat girl while we're on a date, then I have chosen to be a part of her support system
Right.
for whatever that energy is that's going to
true.
come from that. So that whatever we choose, we have to be clear that we are also accepting
Society.
whatever energy comes towards them as what we also have to embrace.
Great.
Definitely.
Great point.
It's like being an ally in a relationship, which
Absolutely,
is amazing. Yeah.
absolutely. So I don't. So I was. Aaron was leaning towards this, you know, Alice in Wonderland that I couldn't quite understand.
Well, let me
No.
explain why I say that, because I got it from my live streams where a lot of my audience are teenage gays around the world. And they actually taught me, you know, I identify as non-binary, particularly pangender. Where did I get that? From the teenagers who watch my broadcast. I would tell them, oh, you sound like you're bisexual. They're like, no, I'm this. I'm like, what is that? And this is how,
That's-
yeah, they are like, and
Educating.
they would educate me and they would check me. Like, no, you're being biased right now against this group. I'm like, oh my goodness, I learned so much from the youth.
These youngsters.
I think Chris's point, though, is that that's not universal.
Oh, society.
And one of the things about, this is one of those things about social media we were talking about. You can get into these little rooms.
With your fans.
With this ideology, whatever that ideology is, and get lost in that and lose track of what's really going on in the world. So not that that is not a reality, that absolutely is, and that support that's needed for people who identify the same and need to find that support, the beauty that you can find it worldwide. But as much as we've progressed, we still face the same kind of ignorant people, we can call it, that you mentioned, out in the world. And so when you choose to be with someone, you are taking on, because we're not in the society yet, but we are moving hopefully in that
Closer.
direction, you know?
Well, when you're with someone, you take on their baggage too. If they have
true.
daddy issues, or if they have, you know, self-confidence issues, if they have an eating disorder, if they have, I mean, you know, you're taking
Or
that
if
on.
they have confidence issues. Like this is someone, if I'm dating her, I know that I am walking into a room with someone who is highly confident, so that the idea that I may be in total control, and even if I'm walking in strong, leading the way, you know, and she's all happy about it, I still know that she's still coming in with her own energy and strength that's going to be like super powerful and super awesome, and I have to make room for that.
Do you prefer to be single or in a relationship?
I mean, I, at this point, am ready for partnership, but I do enjoy being alone. I guess it's just, my answer is I don't want to settle. So I will continue to choose myself every day until, well, I will always, but and then when I meet someone else, if they are worth choosing, then I would love to be in a partnership.
If they have
That
the
is a
privilege.
beautiful note
That's wonderful.
to end on. That is absolutely beautiful note to end on. And with that, we're going to
Cheryl definitely don't want you to leave the house. Fix your top.
We're going to thank you. We have to thank you for coming, Amy, and
Thank you.
bringing all of this wonderful energy and experience to the house. We appreciate you. And we always say, once you come to the house, you are always what?
Family.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. I really, this has been a pleasure.